Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Nazir Daf Amud Aleph, 48:1. Says the Gemara, we were just speaking about that we could not learn it from a Kal Vachomer, that the last type of a tiglacha, the last type of a shaving off of the hair is going to be with a ta'ar. So he says, Rabbi comes and he says, right, that you don't need to learn it from a Kal Vachomer, but rather why? He comes and it says, if it says in the Pasuk in Bamidbar, Ta'ar lo ya'avor rosho ad melot, which means the Torah is telling you that after melot, it's going to be with a ta'ar. So you obviously know that the last time that they're going to come and take a haircut is going to be with a ta'ar. So says the Gemara V'aktiv, it's written in the Pasuk, ta'ar lo yavor rosho. What does that mean, ta'ar lo yavor rosho? So he comes and he says, when it says lo yavor rosho, it's mashma that anything which is going to be ma'avir se'ar is bichlal l'isur, not only just ta'ar. So answers the Gemara, la'avor lav b'shnei lavin. When it says ta'ar, it's actually coming and teaching us that there's two negative commandments. One is the Yisur Klali, that you're not supposed to come and take off the hair, which is Lo Ya'avor Rosho. And the second one is Ta'ar Lo Ya'avor Rosho, the blade. And you've got two different Yisurim. Number one, don't take off the hair. And how do you, it doesn't matter how you're taking off the hair. Don't take off the hair. That's number one. Number two, the blade, Ta'ar. Okay? So Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, right? Lilkot be'achat, לעכב בשתיים, לסתור, אינו סותר אלא ברוב ראשו ובתער. Do you know when we're talking about the shiur of how much do you have to take off to get the lashes? It's with one hair. Meaning even if you took off one hair, you get the lashes. Okay? Imagine, the Nazir. The Nazir comes, yeah, he's already going to get the lashes. לעכב, to stop the mitzvah of tiglachat, it has to be two. Meaning, as long as he left two hairs or more, he was not mekayem, meaning if he left less than two hairs, right? He says over here, he's not mekayem the tiglachat, which means at the end of the nezirut, he has to cut his hair. Let's say he cut off all his hair, but he left two hairs or more. He's not mekayem the mitzvah of the tiglachat at the end. One more time, at the end of the nezirut, you have to shave off all the hair. He left over two hairs or more. The second that he left over two hairs or more, he didn't do the mitzvah of tiglachat at the end. What it means, it says listor, right? What does it mean listor? Eno soter ela berov rosho. Meaning, if you're in the middle of the nezirut and you're going to come and you're going to be soter the nezirut, it has to be that you have to take off the majority of the hair in order to be soter. Uvetar. Now, everything that we're talking about now is only betar. Okay, everything that we're talking about until now is always a tar. Okay, ta'arim, it's mashma only a tar. Midiachrin lo, not anything else. So vaktani it's certain minay lerabot et kol hamavim. I thought you said that it's with anything. It means all these halachot with anything. It's not only just a tar. Ela ema, but rather you have to say ke'en tar, like the tar. So Tanya Miyachi, we also learned it in Raita. Nazir shetalash omeret o sifsef kolshu eno soter ela berov rosho. When we're talking about a nazir, that he came and he was tolesh, right? He came and he plucked out, right? Omereto sifsef kolshu, any amount, he's not going to be soter ela berov rosho, only with the majority of his head, with the tar. Shimon ben Yehuda, Shimon says, Shimon ben Yehuda, the name of Shimon, keshem sheshete se'arot me'akvot bo, kach shte se'arot sotro bo. He comes and he says like this, just like two se'arot are going to be me'akev, right? We're talking about the mitzvah of tiglachat, that if you're going to come and you're going to have even two hairs, you're not going to be mekayim the mitzvah. So two se'arot are going to be sotrot, meaning like this. According to, we learned before, you shaved off everything, but you left over two, you didn't do the mitzvah of tiglachat at the end. Comes and he says, what about taking it off in the middle of the nazir? So he says, it's only if you took off the majority, now you got rid of the nazir. Comes and he says, what about in a case where you have two se'arot, right? He comes and he says, just like at the end, if you left over two, it's going to be soter that you didn't do the mitzvah. So too, the second that you did two se'arot, right? You already soter your nezirut in the middle of the nezirut. Meaning, you're in the middle of the nezirut, you're 10 days in, and you come and you took off two hairs. According to the shita. Before we said you needed the majority of the hair. Now he's coming and saying, no. Rabbi Shimon says, just like two se'arot at the end is me'akev, so to in the middle it's me'akev.
And then what happens?
And then he would have to start again. Okay? Tanan Hatam, we also learned in the Mishnah over there, Shlosha migalchin, there are three people that they come and they take off all their hair. Their haircuts is a mitzvah, right? It's a very good question. Since when is a haircut a mitzvah? So he comes and he says, Nazir mitzorah ve'leviim. The Nazir, a mitzorah. Remember, Nazir is after the 30 days. The mitzorah is on the first day and the seventh day of his tara. And the leviim, right? When they became consecrated, when they became consecrated during the times of Moshe Rabbeinu to start serving in the Mishkan. Right, that was when you remember when Korach started, when they started making fun, they had to come and they had to cut their hair. No, that's a kohen, but that's a regular hair. That's the haircut. It's not the shaving completely. Here we're talking about shaving completely. We're talking about becoming bald. We're not talking about just trimming your hair, taking a haircut.
So in the peot,
you have the three of them. The kulan shegilchu shelo betar. So anybody that did it without a tar, or they left over two hairs, lo asuv lo klum. They didn't do the mitzvah. And you have a lewi. Or you have anyone, and they left over two hairs or more, they did not do the mitzvah. So Amar more comes and he says, Shlosha megalchi v'tiglachta mitzvah. He says there are three people that they do a haircut, and their haircut is a mitzvah. Pshita, obviously, right? Why does the Mishnah have to say tiglacha mitzvah? We know that. He says, no. I would have thought to say that the kavanah is that they just have to take off the hair. Even if they're going to come and they're going to put like the cream, that they come, the shaving cream or whatever it is, so it's going to be okay. And they're going to be mekayim the mitzvah. Comes to teach you that you're not going to be mekayim the mitzvah if you use a cream. In order for you to be mekayim the mitzvah, you have to use the ta'ar. Ktani. What? But we did learn the kulan shegilchu shelo betar, everything that you did not use a tar. So bishma legabe nazir, I understand by the nazir k'tivet certain talo yavor lo sho, that you're not going to put the ta'ar on your head. Also by the Levim, it's written, they have to put their ta'ar on all their flesh. But mitzorah betar, how do you know that mitzorah has to be used with a tar? Meaning a tar is written by a Nazir and by Levi, by the Levi. Where's it written by the mitzorah? Menalan. So the chitim, and now you're going to tell me, titim Levim, you learn it from the Levim. Ma Levim shken tuning tiglachat, then tiglachta betar. You're going to tell me, listen, since the Levi, they need tiglachat. And the tiglachat is only betar. So I'm also going to include the mitzorah that also needs a tiglachat and therefore it has to be mitzar. We could ask, you have to wave the levim. You don't have to wave the mitzorah. You have to pick them up and wave them. You know, up, down. Yeah, you have to wave them. No, you don't know.
The coin must be strong.
Yeah, Aaron a Kohen. You know what it was? How many thousands he had to do? So imagine. So he says, "Tomar mitzorah de lo." You didn't have to do it.
Get the pro.
He comes and he says, 1 second, but the Leviim, they need tenufa begufam. What you're not going to say that by a mitzorah, they're not. Ela teiti min nazir, but rather we're going to learn it from a nazir. Ma le nazir sheken korbanot taun lechem, tomar be mitzorah de lo. He says what? The nazir, right? The korbanot of the nazir, it needs lechem, it needs bread. What are you going to say that by a mitzorah? That it doesn't need that. Ela mechada lo atya, but rather you're right. From one of the two cases, it's not going, you can't learn it, right? Davka betar. But rather you have to learn from two. Meaning, if you're going to learn it only from the Levim, you have a question. So you can't learn it just from the Levim. You're going to have to learn from two of them. What are going to be the two of them? What do you, Teiti mi Levim. If you're going to learn from the Levim, you have the question. Nazir yochech. What about, so then you have the Nazir. The Nazir, you don't have to wave the Nazir. Yeah, but ask the Gemara, but the Nazir, when you bring the Korban for the Nazir, you need a lechem, you need bread. So Levim yuchichu, that there's no Korban even. And the Korban did not need lechem. Okay? The Korban that they brought did not need the lechem. The Chazar Adin, lo rizek, rizev, lo rizek, so basically this is called a binyan av. Binyan av means that I'm going to take two different things, which is basically what's written mefurash in the Torah, Nazir and the Levi. Both of them need tiglachat, and both of them need ta'ar. Then you have mitzorah. Mitzorah also needs tiglachat, but it doesn't tell you with what. So I'm going to learn the mitzorah from the Levim. You said you can't, because the Levim, their body needs tinufa. So he said, okay, fine. I'm going to learn the mitzorah from the Nazir. I cannot learn from the Nazir, because the Nazir, the Korban needs lechem. The mitzorah does not need Korban lechem. So what do? I learn from both. Right? What does it mean from both? I've got a binyan av. Binyan av means I put them both on the top, Nazir and Levim, and the mitzorah, I'm learning from both. When I come in, I'm going to learn from the Levim. I have to push it off to the Nazir, because there you needed a tinufa waving, and by the Nazir you don't need waving. But when I come and push it to the Nazir, I'm going to learn from the Nazir. The Nazir needs lechem, fine, but the Levim don't need lechem. So therefore, when I put them both together, you're right. The mitzorah is not 100% like the Nazir, and the mitzorah is not 100% like the Levim. But the common denominator at Tzad Shaveh Shebahen is a what? That you need tiglachat. And the tiglachat is going to be with the ta'ar. So too, the mitzorah needs tiglachat, and therefore the mitzorah is going to be tiglachat with a ta'ar. That's called a binyan av. Okay.
In the whole Torah, tiglachat.
Elmaleh Rava mi bar Nish Ravashi says Rava mi Nish Ravashi v'lifroch. But ask a question. Even on that, 1 second. Ask a question even on that. Mala tzad hashaveh shebehen, even the tzad hashaveh, which is a common denominator, sheken, that at the end of the day, mema mubet 40b, and korbano bedalut. What does that mean? Neither or have a concept of the korbano with the dalut, meaning the leviim, whether they're aniyim or shirim, it's all the same korban. And the same thing in Nazir, whether he's an ani or an ashir, it's the same korban. But a mitzorah, it does have korbano bedalut. It does have a korban if you're rich or if you're poor. Meaning, one more time, whenever you're doing a common denominator, you could only do a common denominator if they have a similarity between them that it's not different, right? That's what it is. For example, I'm coming, I've got something over 8, something over 6, and something, so I can make a common denominator. Once I come and I put the common denominator on the bottom, so now I could come and play around with all the things on the top. Here though, right, what do we have? We had a question that if you go from Mitzorah straight to Leviim, problem. Mitzorah straight to Nazir, problem. But if I come and I go like this together, now it comes out a common denominator. What's common denominator? Tiglachat and ta'ar, which is called the binyan av. He says, 1 second. At the end of the day, both the Nazir and the Leviim have a common denominator, lechumra, like different than the Mitzorah. Meaning each one was different because the Nazir had lechem, but the Levi did not have lechem. The Levi had tenufa, but the Nazir did not have tenufa. Says the Gemara, but both of them together, they do have a chumrah. You know what the chumrah is by both of them? It's the same korban by everybody. Now the mitzorah is not the same korban by everybody. You have a rich man and a poor man, and they're different korbanot. So the fact that you have a difference in the fact of the korbanot, so now I can't use anymore the common denominator. Because I'm going to say, yeah, but what's the mitzorah that it's completely different? Because at the end of the day, one more time, whenever we're using common denominator, why didn't we just learn straight mitzorah from Nazir? You can't, because there's a chumrah by Nazir that you don't have a mitzorah. Why can I learn the chumrah from mitzorah directly from Levim? It's chumrah by Levim that you don't have mitzorah. But when I learn from both of them together, both of them have a chumrah, but the other one doesn't have it. So it's going to be okay. So that means they're not 100% comparable, the Levi and the Nazir, but they have a common characteristic. You have tiglachat and ta'ar. Says mitzorah also. They don't have these chumrot, but it has a common characteristic, tiglachat, right, which is written in Furash, and now you're going to say ta'ar. 1 second. Says the Gemara, by the Nazir and the Levim, you also have a common characteristic, which is the chumrah, which is always the same korban. Mitzorah, you don't have that. So, Elmaleh Rava Amar Mishar Shel Rava. Haitana Meikara Amar, at the beginning he said, Lelomdo Mitzorah Yefshar, you can learn from Mitzorah. She'en danin kal mechamur lachmir lav. You cannot learn the lighter one from the stricter one to be more chamir. But then he says, well, you're going to learn it from a din. What's the din? But the din, you could also not learn it. What does that mean? At the beginning, we wanted to come and we wanted to say like this. If tiglachat from the Nazir is going to be dafka with a ta'ar, so I can't learn it from the mitzorah because I cannot learn the tiglachat of the Nazir from the mitzorah to be more machmir. Because at the end of the day, tiglachat of the Nazir is more kal than tiglachat of the mitzorah. Why? Because he comes and he says, at the end of the day, the mitzorah, if I'm not mistaken, has to do it twice. The mitzorah has to do it twice, at the beginning and the end of the 7 days. The Nazir is only doing it once. And then afterwards, he came and he said the opposite. The din of the mitzorah is that you're going to be chayav legaleach beta'ar from the Nazir and the Levim, which means it's much more pashut that the Nazir is chayav legaleach beta'ar than even the other one. Okay, than even the mitzorah. So he comes and he says, umidina nami lo yalif. But then you cannot come and you cannot learn it from the din of the mitzorah, from the din of the Nazir and Levim, because of the question that we just asked. That at the end of the day, the giluach of the mitzorah is more pashut. So you can't learn it. So Elmaleh hu aliba de Rabbanan, that is according to aliba de Rabbanan, the aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. One of them is aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. What does that mean? The one that says that it's going to be pashut, that the mitzorah is going to be megaleach b'tar, is according to shitat chachamim, right? Which we're going to bring down in a few minutes. The chachamim come and they say, right, there's a makor barur that for sure the mitzorah is with a tar. And not only that, you don't have to learn the mitzorah from the Nazir, because the Nazir is asur with anything. Well, not only with a tar. So the opposite. If anything, you should learn the Nazir from the Metzorah. Okay, because the Nazir is not allowed to use anything. He comes and he says, but now the Gemara, when the Gemara is saying that you're obligated to be Migalech Batar, and you learn it from the Levim and the Nazir, that's only according to Rabbi Eliezer. That he says that the Tar is a Sur in the Nazir, right? And therefore he comes and he says, can we learn the Metzorah from the Nazir or not? The Tanan, let's see this machloket exactly. The Tanan is we learned in the Mishnah. Ve'eno chayav ad shilkatenu betar. Here we're talking about, right, taking off your peot, but the peot of the zakan. You're talking about your beard. So he says you're not going to be chayav unless you're going to remove the beard or the ta'ar. So he says, Rabbi Eliezer says, afilu liketo b'mlaketu v'rehitni chayav. Even if you're going to take it with other types of utensils, you're going to be chayav, which means that you cannot come and completely remove it. I'm going to take a very close scissors and I'm going to do a close shave. It's also going to be chayav. My time out the Rabbanan. What's the reasoning of Rabbanan? The Tanya was we learned in a Braita. Zekano. When it says zekano, mata mulomar, what is it coming to teach you? The fish and since it's written by the Kohanim, ufat zekanam lo yigalechu. That peat zekanam, they're not going to come and they're not going to be megaleach. Yachol afilu mitzorah. Ken, I would have thought to say that it's going to be a sul legaleach zekano, right? So Tamulomar comes to teach you zekano. What does it mean now, zekano? So it says your mitzorah is going to be chayav legaleach zekano, even though that a giluach kazeh is going to be a sur when he's not going to be megaleach tiglach mitzvah. So he says uminalan de vetar. So how do we know that it's going to be even with a tar? The Tanya, as we learned in the Braita, ufat zekanam yigalechu. Yachol afilu gichu b'svei. So I would have thought to say even if you're going to use scissors, you're going to be chayav malkut. Talmud Lomar comes to teach you v'lo tashchit. It has to be a destruction. Only if you destroy it are you going to be chayav the malkut. So yachol likto b'mlaket v'yin. So I would have thought if you're going to use the type of a scissors or other things, chayav, you should be chayav. Talmud Lomar ufat zekanam yigalechu. That it's not giluach, right, in such a way. Meaning if you're going to come and start, cutting with a scissors, that's not giluach. Haketzad. Ezu giluach sheyesh bo hashchata. What is the only giluach that has a destruction? This is a blade, the razor. That you're destroying the roots. You're destroying it. That's only the tar. The tar is the only thing that you're actually destroying it. So says the Gemara, Mimai. How do we know that? You're also doing a mitzvah. Okay? And here it's coming to teach you zekano. You're not going to be chayav malkut even if you use the tar. So says the Gemara, Amri, we say, if you're going to tell me now that if you're going to cut with the scissors and everything, it's still going to be okay. So don't say anything. And now, I'm going to say, just like by the Nazir, that the Nazir is doing an Isur and still he's going to be chayav. Meaning, if he's going to come and he's going to start cutting his hair, he's going to be chayav. Nevertheless, he's going to be chayav legalech et rosho in any case. Hachad mitzvah, but here by the mitzvah, it's a mitzvah to do it. Lo kol sheken shouldn't be a mitzvah then. He's going to do the Yisur of Giluach Peot Zakan. If the Torah comes and tells that the Nazir is a choteh to do such a thing, so for sure, right, the Torah came and told the Metzorah he's not going to be a choteh, so therefore the Torah didn't need to write Zekano. We already know that Zekano is coming to teach you an extra halacha. The Metzorah is chayav legaleach et Zekano b'ta'ar. That means the Metzorah is obligated to take off his Zakan or the tar. He has to take off all his hair. Remember the Metzorah. So he has to take it off with the tar. And then we're going to continue with Zat Hashem tomorrow with more of the, how do we actually have this Havamina or not.